Hello, friends. Welcome back to another episode. Over the last few episodes, we have spoken about executive search, leadership expectations, and the future of headhunting. Today, I want to talk about something that is rarely discussed in the open, and yet almost everyone in senior leadership quietly understands. And that is the reality behind CXO hiring. Why most CXO appointments are not merely merit based. Now, this may sound uncomfortable because we all like to believe that the best performer, the most qualified leader, naturally rises to the top. But inside leadership hiring rooms, the truth is far more nuanced. Today, I want to share that reality from what I have observed closely over the years working with leadership teams. Let's talk about the myth of pure meritocracy. Let me begin with a simple question. When organizations hire CXOs, whether it's a CEO, CHRO, CFO, what do we assume drives the decision? Most people would say experience, great track record, functional expertise, leadership qualities, in short, merit of the individual. But here is the reality. At senior leadership, merit is only the starting point because by the time candidates reach these levels, almost everyone is qualified. Everyone has strong credentials. Everyone has delivered. Everyone has had large teams to manage. So the decision no longer becomes who is most capable. It becomes who fits best in the power structure of the organization. In reality, there are three invisible forces that shape CXO appointments. Number one, trust and comfort. At senior levels, organizations don't just hire skill, they hire predictability. The CEO and the board ask, can we trust this person in high pressure situations? Second, will they align with our leadership style? Third, will they protect the interest of the organization? Trust is rarely built through interviews. It is built through past interaction, industry reputation, shared networks, and long-term credibility. Very often, the candidates who inspires the highest comfort wins, not necessarily the one with the strongest achievements. Second would be internal power dynamics. This is where internal dynamics quietly enters the process. A CXO does not operate independently. They become part of an existing leadership ecosystem. And that ecosystem has established hierarchies, influence zones, personal equations, and unspoken alliances. So when a CXO is hired, stakeholders often ask, will this person disrupt the balance? Will they strengthen certain power centers? Will they challenge the status quo too aggressively? So sometimes organizations prefer a less threatening candidate over a more transformational one. Not because they lack vision, but because stability often feels safer than disruption. Third point is risk management. At these levels, hiring mistakes are extremely costly. A wrong appointment can lead to leadership conflicts, cultural breakdowns, strategic misalignments, and loss of investor confidence. Hence, organization prioritizes risk minimization. This means they often choose candidates who are known quantities, culturally familiar, behaviorally predictable, over those who are bold, unconventional, and are often highly disruptive. In other words, safety frequently outweighs brilliance. Let me now share some realities that are rarely discussed openly. Sometimes CXO searches begin with an unofficial preferred candidate already in mind. The external search process may still happen, but primarily to validate or benchmark that choice. At other times, a leadership teams may subtly influence the hiring outcome. For example, a CEO may prefer someone who complements their style. A board may prefer someone who aligns with governance priorities. A promoter may prioritize loyalty and alignment. And hence, here is an uncomfortable truth. At CXO levels, hiring decisions are often about organizational chemistry, not just competence. Because leadership teams must work closely under pressure. A trust within the team is often valued more than individual brilliance. Fourth point, the role of an informal reputation of the individual. Another major factor in CXO hiring is an informal reputation network. At senior levels, formal interviews rarely tell the story. So decision makers rely heavily on references. They ask, how does this leader behave during crisis? Do they build teams or create fear? Are they politically correct? Can they handle board relationships? These invisible reference checks influence outcomes far more than resumes or presentation. So, does merit still matter? Now let me clarify something important. This does not mean that merit is irrelevant. Merit absolutely matters, but at senior levels, merit is a qualifier, not a differentiator. It gets you into the room, but it does not guarantee the outcome. Because once capability is established, decisions shift towards trust alignment, risk perception, and leadership chemistry. This reality offers important lessons for senior leaders. If you aspire to become a CXO, focusing only on performance is not enough. You must also build credibility beyond your function, strong across-organizational relationship, reputation for judgment and integrity, visibility with stakeholders and boards. Because at these levels, leadership success depends as much on trust, capital, as on functional excellence. It is also important to understand that internal dynamics are not always negative. In many cases, these dynamics exist because leadership decisions involve high uncertainty and long-term consequences. Organizations are not hiring machines. They are hiring human beings who must collaborate under pressure. So factors like trust, alignment, chemistry are natural and often necessary. The real risk arises only when internal dynamics completely overrides objective evaluation. The best organization balance merit with judgment, capability with culture, and performance with integrity. Let me end with a simple thought. CXO hirings will never be purely merit-driven process because leadership at the top is fundamentally human. It involves judgment, relationships, risk perception, and trust. Understanding this reality does not make the system cynical. It makes it clearer. And clarity helps both organization and leaders make wise decisions. Thank you for listening. I hope this episode has given you a deeper understanding of what really shapes senior leadership appointments. I look forward to speaking with you again in the next episode. Signing off. Thank you.